There are 11 champions on the WWE main roster as of today, and some of them have had great reigns, and some of them have had pretty garbage reigns. In this video, we are going to go through and rank each champion's reign from worst to best. Let's get started. Starting off in our number 11 position, we have Lyra Valkyria. Lyra's reign has been pretty terrible as of right now. She has not defended this championship so far. She won it back in the beginning of January, and quite frankly, it feels like they're doing absolutely nothing with her. You barely see her, she gets barely any promos, and she just had a qualifying match for the Chamber, and she lost. And that is just a great way to put over your Intercontinental Champion. Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that idea. I had a feeling they should have done something along the lines of like I don't even know, let Roxanne come in and, you know, mess up this match so then Lyra can get the win and Bayley loses type of thing. I don't know. I feel like they could have done that and protect Bayley in a sense, but at the same time it allows Lyra to do bigger things, because right now they have absolutely nothing planned for her, it feels like. And the problem is they didn't want to give this because she has the IC title, so why would we give her a chamber match when she already has a title? That's how they're thinking about this, and truthfully I don't think the same way about this. It's like Bayley's already got shit going on. She's duking it out on Vengeance Day this Saturday with everybody tomorrow. So I really do believe that giving Lyra this chamber match would have been a fantastic idea. Allow Bayley to focus on NXT a little bit more. But no, instead we decide to basically do absolutely nothing with Lyra. And that is the sad truth of why she is in the last position of today. In the number 10 position, I have Shinsuke Nakamura. Now, let's be real here. Shinsuke's reign, at first I was very excited for him to beat LA Knight. I thought big things were coming his way until we got to his promos and barely see him win. We always see him lurking in the shadows when it comes to backstage promos and backstage moments on Smackdown, and truthfully, he's not a great talker. We already kind of knew that, but they're not putting him in a position where he can succeed. And truthfully, his matches, yes, they're pretty solid, but they're nothing special in my opinion. And he's only defended the US title only a few times. And truthfully, this reign has not been that great so far. I mean, the tag titles have had a better reign than his reign so far. And yes, he's had the belt for a shorter amount of time, but at the same time, I don't know, man. War Raiders, they're ahead of him, and they've not had the belts for that much longer than him. So I'm just saying that his reign, truthfully, it could be so much better than what it has been so far. And people at first to see him win, but then once his reign really started getting going, people have been clamoring for LA Knight to get the belt back, and honestly, I can see where they're coming from. I'm probably falling into that category now where I don't really want to see Shinsuke with the belt anymore, because it's not like they're really doing anything with him. He feels very lackluster as a champion, and truthfully, it's not like he's really doing anything. I mean, I don't know what the hell they have him doing right now, but it's basically nothing, it feels like. Why is your champion lurking in the shadows? You know, it doesn't make really much sense. And I get it's his character's persona, but at the same time, he's a champion now, so he should stop doing that. I don't know. It just feels kind of dumb to me. And I just mentioned them. I have, at my number 9 position, the War Raiders. I think the War Raiders have had a pretty underrated run so far. At first, I was not a fan of them. I really was not a fan of them. And truthfully, whether they get a lot of points in this ranking is the fact that they took the belts off the Judgment Day's terrible, atrocious run as champions. So that's kind of where they get a lot of these points from, is that match was really good, but they also took the belts from Judgment Day, so that was a blessing in disguise. But with last week, when they went against Dom and JD, wow, that match, that was their first defense, and I think it was an amazing match. JD put his life on the line, it feels like, battling through 2 broken ribs and I think it was, he had like a punctured lung or something like that. Wow. But yeah, I was not expecting that match to be as good as it was. Dom and JD, 2 of the best sellers today, in my opinion. I feel like Dom, JD, and Carmelo Hayes, I think, are the top 3 sellers of WWE right now. But those 2 put on a fantastic match, and even this past Raw versus the Creed brothers, I thought that match was really good as well. I was not expecting that match to be as good as it was, and it was actually very, very good. So I have to give my props to the War Raiders, man. Yes, they're not the greatest on the mics, but at the same time, they are able to put on a fantastic match. These last few times they've actually defended the belts or have been like in a belt match, you know, taking the belts from Judgment Day. All 3 of these matches have been absolute good matches. You know, I was gonna say bangers, but I don't want to say that because that's a Sheamus thing. But they're not bangers, but they've been great matches, so you can't take away from that. And right after the War Raiders, in my number 8 position, I have the Smackdown Tag Champions, DIY. Now, I think DIY's reign has been a little bit better just because they've had belts for a little bit longer. So they have been able to defend those belts a little bit more, and they've been able to have great matches than War Raiders. And truthfully, their matches always are great matches. Them 2 are fantastic workers in the ring. I have never not liked any of their matches, but I gotta be honest, when it comes to mic talking and mic work, both of them are very underwhelming in that category. They both need help. I feel like they both need a manager, in my opinion. They're not great, in my opinion. I'm not really engaged when they're actually talking, it feels like. And truthfully, I feel like they both need a gimmick change or something. I don't really know. DIY, they need something different. And in my opinion, I feel like giving them a manager is probably a good place to start. You know, that's a good place to start, giving them a manager, someone who can help them through these promos, because I want to get behind them, I do, but like I just can't right now because the reign really has not been that good so far. But it's been okay. Terrible, it hasn't been atrocious like Lyra's or Shinsuke's has been, but it's not been anything to smile about. It's been something of lackluster. It's like it doesn't feel like it has the stakes that old championship belts used to have. But then again, that's a problem with today, is that the tag team championships are just not as good as they used to be. You know, the Usos did a very good job of bringing them back to prominence, but after they lost the belts, it feels like they just fell back into the void of unimportance, which they kind of have, unfortunately. Oh, fallen from grace. At my number 7 position, believe it or not, I have the Women's World Champion, Rhea Ripley. Now, Rhea has had 2 very good matches involving this belt. Actually, a few good matches, but those don't obviously count. I'm counting when she took the belt, that match versus Liv Morgan on the Raw debut on Netflix, and its main event. And then her promo work has been okay, I guess you can say. It hasn't been great. She is another example of somebody who I think needs a manager. She needs someone to kind of just help her, which that's what Judgment Day was there for before, but now it's like, yeah, she's fallen into the void of needing someone again, and unfortunately, I don't really know where else they can go with this because she needs something different. It feels like, again, she needs something, and I don't know whether or not it's turning heel again or whatever the case may be, but honestly, her reign has been very underwhelming in my opinion, and I felt very guilty putting this reign as low as I did. I honestly debated putting it even lower, but I gotta be honest, the Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley match at Raw debut on Netflix, I thought was a classic match. I thought it was a really, really good match. And then her match against Nia Jax, for some reason, she is able to put on an absolute classic every single Nia Jax. For all the people who say last year's Elimination Chambers match in the main event against Nia Jax was really bad, Newsflash, that was one of Rhea's best matches, if not her best match outside of Charlotte Flair. I mean, seriously, every time Rhea gets in the ring with Nia Jax, she puts on an absolute banger of a match, and the same thing happened this past Saturday night's main event on January 25th. That was a great match again, and I don't know what it is, but she does really, really well when she faces somebody who's bigger than her, and I think that's been the story of this. I think Rhea had a really good match with Raquel, but then again, it was as good as it was going to get because Raquel isn't really that good. So, I don't know. But, yes, I have a lot of thoughts about Rhea and how she's been just mishandled since she's left Judgment Day. They haven't handled her storyline very well at all. And then this world title reign, again, has felt lackluster because we barely see her on Raw now. She doesn't wrestle. Whenever she does, it's like once in a blue moon. And she, I don't know, you never see her promos anymore. She's always getting these backstage interviews, which it gets old when it's your world champion, you know. Gunther literally has been coming out every single week, and I get it. Gunther has to face Jey Uso for the world title at WrestleMania, and so he was dealing with that. But I don't know, man. When Rhea came out or whatever to, you know, get in Charlotte's place, I mean, I don't know. That felt lackluster as well when Charlotte won the Rumble and she was weighing her options on who she should choose. That felt kind of lackluster. I don't know. I really don't know. I hope this reign gets better. It's early on. I get that. You know, that's the problem with some of these reigns, is that it's early on in these reigns, so it's kind of hard to judge. But right now, this reign really has not been the greatest. Now we are entering the category for very good reigns so far, and we are starting at my number 6 position. I have Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, I think, has done an absolute fantastic job at just bringing this U.S. title into prominence. You know, they've done a better job at showing the women's U.S. title than they have the men's. And that's saying something, because that's normally not the case. They normally do a terrible job at showcasing women's belts and stuff, but no, this time around it's the opposite. The women's belt, I feel like, is featured on every single Smackdown, and Chelsea Green is normally defending this thing on almost every single Smackdown. It's what it feels like. And sure, maybe she repeats her matches against Michin a lot, but you gotta be honest with yourself. The women's mid-card division on SmackDown is not the strongest right now. Michin is like the strongest opponent for her, so honestly, they put on great matches, so that's really all you gotta be concerned with in that category. I mean, I'm hoping, as I said in my video, maybe they have Alexa Bliss possibly challenge Chelsea Green after the Elimination Chamber. You know, give Chelsea a credible opponent like Alexa Bliss, but we'll just have to see. Honestly though, this reign has done everything that Rhea Ripley's reign has not done, which is showcase the title. Her title is getting showcased literally every single SmackDown, it feels like, and it feels like it's a much bigger deal with her title than it is with Rhea's, even though Rhea's is the world title, you know. Chelsea has done a great job at just bringing this title prominence, because she's the inaugural champion, and she's done a fantastic job so far. And at my number 5 position, I have Braun Breaker. Talk about somebody who's brought some prominence to this belt, even though he is not the inaugural champion. And I don't know what it is. Braun Breaker, he is just a specimen. I mean, seriously, this guy can do absolutely incredible things in the ring, and I think his weakest part, which is his promo skills. He's not a great talker. He hasn't really been a great talker. He needs someone to kind of help him concise his thoughts, it feels like. I don't know what it is. I think he needs a manager, truthfully. He needs a Paul Heyman. I mean, I view him a lot like Brock Lesnar, and he needs like a Paul Heyman to his Brock Lesnar. That's kind of what he needs. So I really would love to see what they do with that, because truthfully, I feel like he would flourish if he had himself a manager, especially in the main event picture. I feel like he would absolutely flourish in that. So I would love to see if they decide to do that, because truthfully, it would help him out a lot. But every single title defense he has had, absolute great match. I mean, once he won it back from Jey Uso, he became one of the most hated people in the world, it feels like. Yeah, that was a big night when Braun actually beat Jey. I think Jey only held the belt for a little, like maybe a month, not even. obviously Jay beat Braun for it, and it was kind of just to give Jay his moment, but at the same time, it helped give Braun Breaker a sense of not everything is handed to you. You gotta really work your ass off to get certain things, you know. It's kind of like a wake-up call for him, was what they kind of used it for, which is really good for him. But then once he won it back from Jay, he became very hated again. But it's almost like they didn't capitalize on it enough. It felt like Breaker didn't rub it in Jay's face as much as he probably should have, and then they just moved on from it. That's a big thing that WWE has been doing lately, has just been moving on from certain storylines, trading people to Smackdown or to Raw to just avoid a storyline all in general, which is understandable because you come to a crossroads, you don't really know what to actually do with the storyline, but at the same time, it kind of just, I don't know, it hurts when they just ignore something. And the worst part is Jay and Breaker are both still on Raw, ignoring the storyline, which is what it is. But obviously Jay has way bigger things going on now, so it's too late for this. But I think that it would have been a fantastic story to see what Breaker could do with rubbing it in Jay's face. But overall, Breaker's reign has been fantastic in terms of, you know, putting on a great match every single time he has to defend it. And I did have a complaint about he doesn't defend it enough, but he has defended it a good amount. You know, I think early on he defended it a lot, but then ever since Raw on Netflix, it's slowed down with how many times he defends it, which I guess is fair, I don't know. But him and Lyra, all the mid-card champions, in my opinion, I feel like they all need to be defending their titles every single Raw or SmackDown every single week, you know. And if it's not every single week, it's every other week. I feel like they need to constantly defend these titles, you know. I don't know, it's just my opinion. And then it leaves the world champion for the PLEs, and then it also, if there's a big blood feud going on, like a Punk McIntyre type of feud going on, they allow those to go on the PLE. In my number 4 position, I have the WWE World Champion, Tiffany Stratton. Now, Tiffany is purely here because of the way she won her championship, and that being her amazing cash-in with putting a twist on the formula and basically, you know, surprising so many people when it actually happened, because people were not expecting it when it did happen, because WWE had been going through a cycle of fake cashing in with Tiffany and pissing off a lot of fans, me included. And finally, instead of pissing us off, they actually fell through with it and did the actual cash-in, and Tiffany did not fail her cash-in. She actually won. Thank God they didn't have her lose, but she won. And I thought it was executed very, very well, having Bianca hit her KOD on Nia Jax for the very first time, and then Tiffany capitalizing on that and winning. I thought that just showed how smart Tiffany Stratton is, you know, how using her wits to actually just win a belt, that was phenomenal, showing that she's not just a bag of bricks, if you want to say. But I don't know, I thought she did a fantastic job in just cashing it in, being somebody who just basically had to roll with WWE and what they wanted her to do for the last few months, because I bet you that probably got pretty annoying for her to do. You know, she probably felt very, like, just flustered by it, because she probably was just getting, I don't want to say she was getting booed, but it was probably getting to the point where people are just like, cash in already, you know, and she felt all the pressure. So in a sense, it's like, obviously she gets all the backlash. Obviously it's her, you know, Money in the Bank contract, Money in the Bank briefcase, but I don't know. Either way, I'm just happy they finally pulled the trigger with her. And these last few SmackDowns, she's actually defended the belt. She defended against Bayley on a SmackDown, and now she's going to defend against Nia Jax later tonight. So I really think they are doing an absolute great job with her just defending the belt. You know, people are already saying, wow, she's going to defend the belt more than Rhea already, which there is some truth to that. Yeah, she is. And don't know why that's the case, but it is. Either way, I think Tiffany has done a great job, and I think it's more or less to kind of help show that Tiffany is a world champion contender, so they want to give her as many matches as possible, which, fair enough, I understand that, honestly, I really, really do. But the fact that she's actually defending on a regular SmackDown and not just a PLE, is great. I am so happy to see that, because wow, we have fallen into this cycle of just barely any world championship defenses on just a regular Monday Night Raw or Smackdown. You know, they're always for the PLEs, it feels like, which in a sense they should be, but I don't know, man. It's like it gets repetitive when that's all they do. And they used to defend them more on a Raw or a Smackdown, but now they really don't, and they preserve those for the PLEs, which it's unfortunate, but it is the case. And now in my number 3rd position, believe it or not, I have the women's tag champions, and I'm not gonna say all 3 of their names, but it's Bianca, Jade, and Naomi, because yeah, Bianca hasn't lost the belt since Bash in Berlin, and Naomi only became a champion I think in November. So yeah, Jade counts in this ranking because she was a tag champion with Naomi or with Bianca before Naomi stepped in. So it's all 3 of them, and I think their reign has been great because they defend literally every single night. It feels like every single night they defend those belts, which that's all you can ask for in terms of the tag champion. They are defending champions, and I am so happy they have a set of defending champions, because if you don't have a single champion defend their belt almost every single night, then you're not utilizing the belts well enough, in my opinion. And honestly, them 3, they all can talk very well. So there's that. They're able to get a match, make a match have importance, you know. And they've brought the belts down to NXT as well, and they have put over a lot of talent down there. Even though they haven't lost the belts to anyone in NXT, they actually put people over when they have a match with people in NXT, and that's just fantastic. You know, they're putting people over, they're having great match after great match, and that's all you can ask for. Defending champions, and that's really why they rank so high, because we see them a lot, and that's why a lot of the people from before, you know, at the higher parts of the ranking, you don't see them like at all. But these 3, you see literally every single night, when Jade is not injured, obviously, but every single night you basically felt like you saw them. And if it's not every night, it's every week. You can guarantee that you would see them every single week, and they would be out in the ring. They want to be backstage having an interview or something like that. Maybe they would have one, but they would also go out into the ring. And that's what you need, and that's why they rank so damn high. Now, at my number 2 position, this might be a little bit of bias, but in my opinion, I think Gunther's reign has been absolutely phenomenal, but there are moments where it feels lackluster. In terms of his opponents, they are very lackluster. Damian Priest, yes, felt like maybe Priest would take the belt off him back at Survivor Series, and then they revisited the Finn Balor feud, which I guess is, I don't know, that feud, don't even get me started with that feud. But either way, I didn't think Priest was actually going to win that match, but in terms of the way they were presenting Gunther around that time, honestly, that match was up in the air for me. I really had no idea if Gunther was actually going to retain or not because of the way that they had been presenting him. They were presenting him almost like a face, and I really did not like that. He was like a very like a coward-ish heel face guy. I don't even know, but it did not fit his character at all. He is the badass that you do not want to mess with, kind of like Braun Breaker. He is exactly like Breaker, and they need to just keep him as a heel. He does his best work as a heel who's not scared of anybody, and he is showcasing that he is not scared of Jey Uso, which is exactly what he should. You know, I think it can be said that we can all agree, I think, that he is going to lose the belt come Mania, but I gotta be honest, I think his reign has been an A-tier reign. I don't think it's been like a memorable reign by any means, but it's been a solid ass reign that you can't take anything away from him, honestly. It's been a solid ass reign, and that's all you can ask for. I mean, he defends the belt every so often, it feels like, so yes, maybe that's a complaint of mine, but you see him every night, it feels like, and he's been out in the ring. You know, sure, maybe he has a backstage moment, but I don't know, man, there's just something about his aura, his presence, anywhere that he is, it feels like there's significance to his belt still, you know? He's bringing significance to it again, and yes, there is moments where it definitely does feel like there's not as much significance, but that is more or less because of the opponents he is going against. His opponents are good, but they're there to put him over. And there's no one, he has not faced a single person outside of maybe Randy Orton that you actually thought would take the belt off him. And the problem with the Randy Orton one is that that one happened at Bash in Berlin, and that was only like a few weeks into his title reign. So that's why during that time nobody ever thought Gunther was going to lose that belt, and me included. I did not think Gunther was going to lose, and he didn't. You know, if that match happened maybe at Survivor Series, or maybe it would be a different story, or have that match happen at Crown Jewel or something like that, maybe it would be a different story. Maybe people would actually buy that Randy Orton could actually beat him. But it was just far too early in Gunther's reign, and Gunther was presented as a champion that just never loses, and when it does, it is a odd occurrence. And that's kind of what has been going on with him, is it's an odd occurrence, and it just makes him a more dominant champion. It makes him fun. His promo work has gotten better in my opinion. It's still not great. He still has lapses where it feels like he's not a great talker, but more times than not, he is a great talker, and he does exactly what you want a heel to do. And in my number one position by process of elimination, unfortunately, I have Cody Rhodes. And I say unfortunately because he is not my favorite champion in the world. He's not my favorite, but I can't argue with the fact that he has done great work ever since WrestleMania. His championship obviously has the biggest effect on the entire company, so it is what it is, I guess you can say. I don't know. I think his reign's been great, even though I'm not a fan of his, honestly, I'm really not a fan of him, but putting that aside, I really gotta say I think his reign has been by far the best reign of WWE, and a lot of it, he's held the belt, again, since WrestleMania, so he has the longevity of a champion, and Gunther's held the belt the second longest, and those two rank high because they both have a solid amount of defenses under their belt. Maybe not Gunther, but Gunther has done other things to make up for that. And Cody, literally, he is the workhorse champion that everyone wants to see. He has defended on almost every single PLE, and then when he hasn't defended on a PLE, he makes up for it in a regular match on Smackdown or on Monday Night Raw, or whatever the case may be. He is a workhorse out there. He is exactly what you want your WWE champion to be, you know, and I can't say anything else about it. I mean, he is exactly what you want in a workhorse champion, and I think he has done an absolute phenomenal job in just carrying this championship and being the one to dethrone Roman Reigns. Honestly, I think everybody was expecting Roman to get but that was just a hell of a moment when it happened. And again, that has a lot to do with this ranking as well, is because the way he won the belt, ending that historic reign of Roman Reigns, just wow. And then the moment itself, that was so poetic. That moment was just one of the best moments in WWE history. I can't even say WrestleMania history. I have to say WWE history. That was one of the best moments ever. I'm so happy to have been a part of that moment, even if it was from online or on a screen or whatever. Either way, it felt like I was there. I felt like I was a part of the moment, and it was just a fantastic moment. And ever since that, Cody puts on a banger of a match every single match he has, it feels like. Cody knows how to wrestle really well. He's a great performer, and even when you might not be a huge fan of his, you can't argue with the fact that he has just done an absolutely fantastic job ever since gaining the championship. Includes my list of ranking all the champions from worst to best. Now, honestly, I think I did an absolutely fantastic job with this list. It is not subjective in the slightest. I feel like this is a very objective list. So I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it down below. And quite frankly, I want to hear what you guys actually think of my list, because I don't know, man. I don't think there's any beating it. I gotta just say, I don't think there's any beating it. But until next time, see ya.